Come on and shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. Join award-winning host Dale Davidson as he interviews the most remarkable people you'll find in the entertainment capital of the world. You'll meet entertainers, sports figures, newsmakers, community and business leaders, and people just like you with stories that'll touch your heart. Now, here's Dale Davidson.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. Each and every week we bring you fascinating guests, and we've done it again this time. We have a fascinating guest with an interesting life story of redemption, and it's phenomenal, so stick around. He is Michael Leonetti. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dale.
We appreciate it, and we're
Thank
good
you.
friends.
Yes.
You'll get that idea as we talk. Right. Michael, you have a really interesting story. Let's dive right in, and then we'll talk about, where you've come out with it and how you became an entertainer and a chef and everything else that you do.
Well, it's a funny thing, Dale, that we're talking about this. I'd like to thank you for letting me bring my story to the viewer out there. A lot of people in the world today believe that there's a God. A lot of people don't. A lot of people believe in miracles. A lot of people don't. But the only thing I can do is share a story and the names that anybody can verify at any time. They can pick up a phone, call a medical board, and they can check the story that I'm about to say. About 15 years ago, I was married for 25 years. And I waited 16 years before I had a little girl. So I come home from work, and my wife is sitting up in a chair. I said, honey, what's the problem? She said, Mike, my back, I can't lay down. Well, I rush her to the hospital. As I rush her to the hospital, the doctor checks her and says, look, we're going to have to find out what the problem is. And they put a hypodermic needle in her back. They take a sample, and they said, look, we're going to have to open her up. So I says to her, it's a major operation. So Monday morning, they opened her up, and they closed her right back up. I'm waiting downstairs. It's about 4 hours later. Here comes the nurse and says, is you Mr. Leonetti? I go, yes. The oncologist is going to come to talk to you. Oh, I said, a woman doctor. No, that's a gynecologist. Yeah. This is an oncologist. I didn't have a clue what an oncologist was. Here comes the doctor. He walks in. He says to me, Mr. Leonetti, he says, we opened up your wife, and she has a mass around her aorta. We can't even cut it out if we want. He says, your wife is full of cancer. He says, we're going to have to put her on chemotherapy. I said, wait a minute. You're making some kind of mistake, doc. He says, look, he says, I know that you're upset. He says, and we're going to put her on chemotherapy. I said, you're not hearing a word I said. I said, do you know who I am? He says, I don't care who you are. I'm telling you that your wife has cancer, and we're going to put her on chemotherapy. I get into a confrontation with the man, and I says, get out of this room right now. And he says, don't threaten me.
You flat out didn't
No, I didn't believe it. Absolutely not. I says, get out of the room. I says, and furthermore, you're fired. Within 5 minutes, 2 security guards come in. I said, don't put your hands on me. I'm pulling her out of here. They said, sir, you're not allowed to threaten anybody. I ain't threatening anybody. Give me a few minutes. I walk over to the phone, and I really don't want to mention the gentleman's name who I called. I'll use the word Eddie. And he was very connected in Las Vegas. And I said, Eddie, you got to help me. He said, Mikey, what do you want me to do? I said, you got to help me. He said, well, my neighbors are the Jacobson family. Anybody kid out there, they're still in business today. They're the #1 specialist in Las Vegas. It's a family, the Jacobson family. Shoemaker and Jacobson. He says, they'll take the case. Now, was it... and
they're oncologists? They're doctors?
They're doctors.
Yeah. Right.
He said, they'll take the case.
Right.
So he calls me on the phone, and I put her in an ambulance, and I send her from Valley to Sunrise Hospital. Now, I lived on Fairbank Street in Las Vegas for many, many years. It was a very humble home, and I had all the celebrities and stars because I had a major magazine at that time. And I remember taking her to the hospital, and I come home that day, and I opened up the door, and as I looked around my house, I said, dear God, I don't want this house if anything should happen to this girl. Just as I said that, the phone rang. And I looked at my watch. It was about 1:45 in the morning. So I walked over. I picked up the phone. I said, hello. They said, is this Mr. Leonetti? Yes, it is. They said, Mr. Leonetti, we never met, but my name is Dr. Bill Marinon. Now, again, anybody can pick up a phone, call the medical board. Bill's still in Las Vegas, doing very, very well. Head guy, big man. And when it comes to surgery, he's one of the best. And he says, I don't know how to tell you this. He said, I'm so sorry what happened. I said, what could I do for you? He said, I was instructed by my staff that you fired me and everybody else. I said, yes, I did. He said, Mr. Leonetti, he says, I never seen anything like that. He said, I'm begging you, please, he says to me. He says, if we can put her on chemotherapy. When he said that to me, Dale, I screamed from the top of my lungs and I said, stop. If you're going to talk to me like this, I'm going to hang up the phone. No, he says, don't do that. He says, and he convinces me to operate on her again. Well, I says, on one condition, whatever you do, don't hurt her. He says, I won't. Well, the next day, I got in my car and I went to Sunrise Hospital. My daughter was about, I guess, 5 or 6 at the time. The kid was so bad. I had a kid that came out of space. I spoiled her as an Italian father. She's running up and down, jumping on stuff. And I said to myself, dear God, whatever you do, don't take this mother from this child, because I won't be able to do it. I won't be able to handle it. And as I turned and I looked at my wife, she had the same look my father had before he died. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's out in TV land. When someone's dying, there's a certain look that they have. Go to any hospice and you know what I'm talking about. I sat on the edge of the bed and I waited till she opened her eyes. And I looked at her and I said, listen, hon, they're going to have to operate on you again. And she looked at me, Dale, with tears in her eyes. She said, Mike, I can't take the pain. I said, they have to. Well, it was difficult for me because I would have switched places with her in a heartbeat if I could have. I waited until she went to sleep. I got off the bed and I was walking out the door and my father-in-law said, where you going? I said, I'll be right back. I got in my car and I drove to St. Vitus Church on Tropicana.
Sure.
As I opened up the door of that church, I didn't see a priest. I didn't see a parishioner. I didn't see anybody. I walked up to the altar. I knelt down, and these are the words that I said in 1998. I said, dear God, I'm not a praying man. I said, but take me. Take me, I said. I'll go in her place. But don't take my family from me, please. Don't take my family. I must have stayed 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can't remember. The next day, Dale, they operated on her. And when they opened her up, they didn't find no cancer at all. Now, people out there viewing it, you could say it was a mixed diagnosis, it was a mistake, but I believe it was a miracle. I ran the biggest party for her you could possibly imagine. I gave trophies to the doctors, the surgeons, the nurses. I cooked for everybody. I had a friend that owned a restaurant. I said, shut down, I'll give you whatever you want, I need your place. I never thanked the Lord for what he did. I never told anybody what I did. A year to the day of this incident, I had a young lady that worked for me.
At the magazine?
At the magazine.
Right.
It was a mother and daughter. And I was accused of a sexual assault. I was falsely arrested, and I brought documents that I showed you prior.
I did look
from
at
the police department. On July 25th, prior to that, a month prior, they arrested me. And I said, you're making a mistake. And the police department made a grave mistake. And I filed a $250,000 lawsuit against the police department on July 25th, 2000. When they received that document, I was arrested the next day, and I never seen anybody again. They took me away. I was sentenced on October 16th, 2000 to 20 years for a crime that I never committed. Never committed the crime. As they were taking me out of the courtroom, I turned and I looked to my wife with sadness in my eyes and a broken heart. Because I knew in my heart I would never see anybody again. I said, this was it for me. I'm through, I'm done. It's over for me. I didn't have a clue what was going on. There's so much that I have here to tell the viewer. But it's not about guilt or innocence. What this is about is to tell you what God did while I was in a prison institution. Because he used me in such a powerful way. No man was ever used that way before. So they locked me up and they throw the key away.
And you think I'm going to spend the next 20 years here, or maybe I won't come out of it.
Well, they gave me 8 to 20 years. And to clean up 20 years, you have to do at least 12 and a half, which they made me do every day. Because I fought my case from the beginning to the end. For 14 years that I fought the case. That tried to pull my plea so I can go to trial to prove that what was said was not true. Because rape's a very serious charge. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
And today, it's all it takes is somebody to point their finger at you, and they send the cavalry running, and it's done every day. Because if everybody in TV land believes that everybody's guilty that's behind bars, you better take a sad look, because there's a lot of innocent men that are there. But God uses people in different ways, like He did with me. So I wind up going away, and they sent me up to Lovelock. And I walked into the church, and I'm kneeling down, and I'm praying to die. I'm praying to die. Somebody taps me on my shoulder, and the guy says, "Are you Mike Leonetti?" I go, "Yes." He says, "Mike, you don't know me, but I remember you. I used to come to your shows in Las Vegas." I put my head down in shame because I went from being a king to being an inmate. And he says, I said, "Well, who are you?" He said, "Well, I'm an inmate here like you, but I'm a chaplain." Now, those days, you could have been an inmate and you could have ran the chapel. Today, they changed it. They don't allow that no more. They allow free staff has to come in. Somebody from the street. They don't make, because it was too much power that one inmate had over other inmates. That's why they don't do that. So he says to me, he says, "Could you help me?" I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He says, "Could you, write a play?" No, I says, I don't do that stuff. I don't do that stuff, I says to him. I'm in Las Vegas.
He figured because you were an entertainer.
Entertainer, right.
You were a singer, you were a drummer, you were a comedian, you did all those things. You must be a playwright as well.
I says, "I don't write plays. I wouldn't know where to begin." And I says, "No." And I went back the next day, and he sees me again and comes up. He says, "Geez," he says, "nobody comes to this church." He said, "If you can only help me." I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He said, "How about the story of Job?" I said, "Job who?" He said, "You never read the story of Job?" I says, "No, I don't even know who the guy is." Needless to say, through the power of God, in 7 years, I wrote and directed 60 biblical plays. I had over 17,000 men from every race, creed, and color came to see those shows. And I worked with over 300 of the most nefarious individuals you could ever possibly imagine.
Who played the roles?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Crips, Bloods, Sereno, Paisa, Border Brothers, A-Dubs, Nevada Treses. These are all gang members. And the day I walked out of the prison institution, the warden said, "I got to ask you a question. It's been on my mind for years." He said, "How the such did you ever make these men listen to you?" I said, "Me?" I says, "Was it me? God had His hand on my shoulder the way He had His hand on the lions when they threw Daniel in the den." And I'm going to tell you something. Anytime anybody's accused of any kind of sexual connotation of a crime, you're stabbed, smashed, or raped the minute you hit the yard. No one ever once put their finger on me, because God had His hand and with a hedge of protection around me. And I was the only guy that grabbed my paperwork and said, "Here, fellas, take a look at it. I'm an innocent guy," because that's all you hear. Everybody's innocent on those kind of cases. But God used me in such a great way. It was incredible. But the fighting that I did was, there's no words to express year after year, document after document, and what was done and what I did to make that change. And I got to tell you something, Dale. I don't hold no honor. When I say honor, I can't take the glory for that. It was God that used me. Every piece of dialogue came from the Bible. I worked with the Muslims. I worked with the Jews in prison. From the Quran to the Tanakh. I had something for everybody. I made sure that God's word was instilled in the minds of the men that were there. How I ever did 12 and a half years, I can never possibly tell you. I got out of prison March 12th, 2012. I had 17 cents in my pocket. A friend of mine took me into his home. I cleaned the guy's house to make some money. Today, well, today, it's a whole different ballgame. okay, how God gave me back, not double. He only did double for Job. He did triple for me. Financially, musically, the people that he brought into my life. Because there was
culinary and
beside, of course,
yeah,
and how he used me. People say it's impossible. There's no miracles, and there's not. There is, because many people could never make a comeback the way I made that. You said, was it luck? It wasn't luck. It was God's plan. Because I thought for years he forsake me. A friend of mine said, Mike, how could you even say that? God didn't forget what you did for all them men, all those souls that you saved. There's a story. I was sitting in a cell once, and I did the story of the prodigal son. And this guy comes in after the play, and he takes out a thing called a bone crusher. Now, for those that know prison lingo, it's a piece of steel like that with tape around it, and when they kill you, they hit you in the neck. And it's a bone crusher, it goes through your bones. They find these pieces of metal. So the guy walks in my cell, sits on the chair. He said, I came to your play, Mike. I said, good. Did you enjoy it? And he takes out this thing. I thought he was going to stab me. And he threw it on the bunk. So what are you doing? He said, I came to the play because I wanted to kill somebody. I said, really? He said, the only way I could have got close to this guy because I knew he was coming to your play. He said, I was 2 seats behind him. I was waiting for the right time to stick him. Now, this guy was in for murder. He's never getting out. So he had nothing to lose about going in the hole for 6 months. I said, well, what happened? He said, I got engrossed in the play. And it changed my heart. So instead of me killing him, I decided to pray for him. I said, please do me a favor, get rid of that before we all get in trouble. Go bury it or put it away, but get it the heck out of the cell, I said to him. And the guy that was in the bunk with, he said, see, Mike, what you did to somebody? He said, me? I can't take no glory for that. It was the power of God that used me in such a way that was so powerful. Because through the entertainment career, I always touched the flesh of someone. Mike, the way you played those drums. Boy, the way you sang that song. That concerto you played on piano. That joke you said was great. Never touched the spirit of a man till I did those plays. And seen the toughest of guys, the toughest, keel over in tears in their eyes, watching plays like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, The Prodigal Son, Joseph, The 10 Commandments, Sodom and Gomorrah. The list was endless. Play after play after play after play. Year after year after year. I had a stack of names like this. Stack of names. People wanting to be in the plays. So the people that society looked at as the most grotesque in the world, I looked at the good in those men. And the guys would say, this guy over there is a great guy. What did he do? And people would say, well, I heard, he says he's innocent, but they all say that. But God made these men see my heart and not the crime that I was accused of. And that was the longevity. Oh, there was no picnic in there. Trust me. There was no picnic in there. You know, 12 Christmases, 12 birthdays. But the hardest thing for me was to be left to die by the people I thought loved me. That'll instill in my mind for the end of time. My wife I never got back. My daughter I lost. The so-called friends, oh, they're around now. Hit television show, hit radio show. You know what I mean? They're all back right now, but I don't see them the way I saw them before. Where were you when I was in a dungeon? But then again, there's a guy we both know named Joseph. He was accused of raping Potiphar's wife. They threw him in a dungeon too. Now, I never became the governor of Egypt, and there's no Pharaoh that I'm under. Yes. Except the Lord. But when I walk down the street, I still see them men. Mike, you remember me? Yeah, I don't even know who they are. Yeah, how you doing? I was in your play. I said, how you doing? This is my wife. This is the guy I was telling you about. Right. Good to see you. I said, God bless you. Good to see you. Have a nice day.
We need to take a brief break.
All right.
We'll be back with Michael Leonetti, even more fascinating details of his life story. We'll be back with more right after this.
Michael Leonetti.
Drawn by the lights, glamour, and opportunities in Sin City, they come from all over the world, searching for their chance to be a pretty woman, a success, or maybe just to have a better life, be somebody. What happened after they got here is literally changing the world. From the story of Tommy Scott, a former gang enforcer turned Christian evangelist, to the Hookers for Jesus Outreach Ministry, to the heart-wrenching story of Arturo Martinez and his heroic act of forgiving the man who assaulted and murdered his wife and 10-year-old daughter. Las Vegas Tonight presents an extraordinary depiction of Las Vegas as a city of transformation, from Sin City to Vegas Saints. Las Vegas Tonight, from Sin City to Vegas Saints, a collection of true stories of transformation, people whose lives were transformed, and people who are now transforming the world.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. We have a fascinating guest today. His name is Michael Leonetti. During our last segment, he talked about his years in prison, and now we want to talk a little bit about what his life has been like since and how he's serving the Lord, which he surely is. Michael, once again, thanks for coming on the show.
No, thank you, Dale, for letting me bring my story to the 300,000 viewers that watch you all the time.
Thanks. Let's talk a little bit about once you got out and you were a free man. Were you entirely a free man, or did you have parole?
No, I expired my sentence.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't want to hear from you.
So once you were a free man, did you think you had any hope? Did you think that I can rebuild my life? Did you feel no? What were you thinking?
I was numb. I didn't have a clue where my life was going, and I would say, God, don't leave me like this. Not like this, I said.
Yeah.
You know, and I just would. First of all, I never thought I would ever sing again or perform, because I came out not bitter, but hurt, and the wall was so thick that was around me, because there was a time that I would say, I'm loved. These people love me. Mm-hmm. And God said, they love you? I want to show you how much you're loved. Mm-hmm. When that incident happened, every friend, every person, every dinner I thrown for someone, every accolade I gave somebody, every door in the world shut. You know, but I got to tell you, Dale, it had to happen, because if I did not lose everything I had, I would have never understood Job and Joseph and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego and Jonah. I had to walk a mile in these guys' shoes. My family was for me, or my friends were for me. You think I would have done them plays? No, I would have been like everybody else. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. I had to be stripped, and the Bible specifically states it, because I read that Bible from cover to cover. You don't play with the Lord. You don't play with His Word. Because one guy said to me in prison, he said, if your heart's not right, you can never receive anything. I said, what are you talking about? Your heart has to be right. If your heart's not right, you can't receive forgiveness, understanding, love. But the most important thing, as someone said to me, he says, Mike, there's 3 things a person must have for the nucleus of success. I said, what's that? He says, the content of a man's character, the integrity you hold as an individual, but most of all, the compassion you feel towards another human being. People today don't have all those qualities. They may have 1, maybe 2, but not all 3. There's only a handful of people in the world that really have those 3 qualities. The content of your character. Break it down. What do you mean by content of your character? Integrity you hold as an individual. Shoulders back, head high. The guilty hide in the dark. They don't stand up front with a light on them. When somebody's innocent, they're head, what do you want to ask me? Ask me any question you want. The guilty run, because what you do in the dark is what you're about. And the compassion you feel towards another human being, where I could have got out. And even though that I was tortured mentally in my mind and what these people did, those years in that 5x7 cell, I can never explain to you the horror that what my eyes have seen and what my ears have heard. The ugliness of what hell is all about, how one human being could be so cruel to another. To come out and make that change. And for me, in the 2 years that I'm out, how God used me, and you don't judge it from how much you got in the bank, is what you do with that. And the last quality I picked up was the content of as the integrity I hold as an individual and the compassion for another human being. because now I'm in the position of power today, financially. Power. You can do many things when you got money. It humbled me because I look at people with my heart and not my eyes. The majority of the public today look at everybody with their eyes and not their heart. So when you see somebody with your heart, you see them in a whole different light. Not what they were accused of and not what they did, of a neighbor or something that you heard. And that's something that people need for within themselves.
So you're walking down the street, you're completely broke. As you said, you had 17 cents in your pocket. How did you set out to rebuild your life? And how did you get to the pinnacle where you are now? Because you're at a pinnacle. You're very well known in this town.
Yes. Well, I always was well known, but there was a bad blemish on me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because when I went away, they would say, hey, did you hear what happened? It was one-sided.
Sure.
I never got a chance to tell my side. It was one-sided, and I went away for 13 years. And then when I resurfaced, again, Joseph got out of prison and became the governor of Egypt. So God used me in the public eye. Now it gives people an opportunity to say, wait a minute, maybe this guy is innocent. But then again, who cares? Michael Jackson's a prime example. We gave it the show tickets. This guy was accused of
lots of bad stuff.
Lots of bad stuff. People want to go see Michael Jackson. They don't care. I got to go see the Michael Jackson show. I love Michael Jackson. So, not that I'm saying anything bad or wrong about it, but the public today is really forgiving. It's what you do, and that's how I looked at the men when they came into prison. I don't judge you for what you did to get in here, but how you are while you're in here. That's the difference of a person and how you carry yourself. I worked a jackhammer when I first got. I was 50. I went to prison at 47. Got out at the age of 59, working a jackhammer, doing bull work. Thank God I'm healthy. I'll be 63 today. But with two by 2 pound hammers in my hand, breaking walls down. You know what I mean? At the age of 59 years old. And happy to get $10 an hour. Let alone today I make 6 figures. Whole different ball game. And I would say, God, don't leave me like this. And God, as fast as everything happened to me to end my life, that's how fast God opened the door to open up my life. Brought a wonderful girl to my life. Sandy's like the best. I never thought I'd fall in love again. Never, because there was a wall around me. I didn't trust anybody. I said, if this person did this to me, what are you going to do? But you can't walk around on glass. You can't. You have to put your faith in the Lord. And when I met Sandy, I took her to, I don't know if I could tell the story.
Sure, go ahead.
I was on her TV show. You can go on YouTube and see it. And the beginning of the show is what the story I told you is the same story. Never thinking in a million years she'd be interested in an old guy like me, even though I'm handsome.
Everyone agrees.
Right? No, I'm only kidding.
Her studio audience agrees.
I used to be. But I met her, and don't ask me how it happened. She entertained, I entertained, we met, and I met her dad, and we went out, and I said, I want to talk to your father. And she said, for what?
Dick Castell,
Dick Castell, who's that's my father-in-law, I love him.
Yeah.
And said, for what? And I said, I need to talk to him. And I said, look, Dick, I know your daughter's in the midst of a divorce at that particular time, but someday I want to marry her, and I need your blessing. And he looked at me, and he said, Mike, she's old enough to do whatever she wants. And I says, I know. I said, but I'm Italian. I'm from the old school. I need your blessing. And he said something to me very profound. He said, I have another daughter if you want to marry her too. True story. And I took Sandy by the hand, and I took her to St. Vitus Church, the same church that I went in when I asked to save my wife. And I walked up to that altar with her, held in her hand. And I said, dear God, I'm asking you to bless this reunion between me and this girl. I will be faithful to her. I will love her for the end of time. I need your blessing. There was nobody in that church but me and Sandy. And I walked out of that church. And I've been with her ever since. Now, through her, she was the one that broke the wall down. Chipped away every tear. Chipped away every sorrow. Chipped away every hurt. Put the drumsticks back in my hand. And she says, Mike, You're a champion. Get back in that ring again. And performed. You got the voice. Maybe the look is gone, but the voice is there. The February 26th, we'll be singing with Jimmy Melodor at the Smith Center.
Smith Center, yeah.
And
That's
then
a
the
big
cooking.
deal. That's a big deal.
And then the cooking. To go back again and to do all my cooking, which I gave up. I didn't want to do it anymore because I always thought, no, I'm not going to do this. So for those people out there, you know, you got to follow God's lead. You know, and sometimes his path, you can't question his path. What do you put me down this road for? It's not easy working for the Lord, but he doesn't forget the good. And I'm going to tell you something. I want to tell you, viewers out there, don't play with him. Don't play with God. You make a promise, you better stick to it. Because if you think you're going to get away with it, you're not. You understand? You're not. And I'm a firm believer, when you follow God's way, you'll never, never, never go wrong. Never go. We said, thou shalt not steal. I won't take a pen. Well, it's only a pen. It doesn't say anything under $1 is okay to steal. Thou shalt not steal. Don't take it. I'm telling you something. It's easy to go straight because Satan is always there. If you believe in angels, you better believe in evil. Because he's there. His job is to make you fall from grace. Because there's only one guy with holes in his hands, and it's not me or you. And you know who I'm talking about. Absolutely. So all of us sin from time to time. We all feel weak and we crumble because we're only human beings. But if you stay straight and try to do the best you can, God works with you. Take it from me. Take it from a man who had nothing. I didn't hit the lottery. I didn't sell drugs. Okay? I didn't steal to get where I am today. It was hard work. It was persistence. But it was God that opened up the door. Don't let nobody make any mistakes. He was the one that introduced me and opened the path. I would say, no, I don't want to perform again. Sandy says to me, Mike, you got a right to. You have to. Because the talent you have, you make people happy. The plays, geez, I would love to do them again someday. Someplace, somewhere to do that. 60 of them. You know, that was 7 years of my life.
Wow.
And writing them plays, and the tears come down my eyes, and I would write, I used to be the chapel clerk with the little typewriter I had in my hand to write the dialogue out.
Sure.
And then the Spanish came to me, and then I would do them in Spanish where I had the Spanish guys, and I would dictate. I'd have an interpreter, because the Sireños, they would come, and naturally it was all in Spanish. So I did them in English and in Spanish. Like I said, it was great. Towards the end, it came to an end, and naturally in 2007 the play stopped, and I went in the kitchen. Well, the rest was history.
That's when you started cooking again.
That's when I started cooking again, and I was making, I was making all the good stuff, and them guys were going crazy because you can't get that taste the way I would cook, in the kitchen.
Right.
So the last year they put me up north, and I didn't want to get off the yard. I had friends come to see me. I said, "What are they pulling me off the yard for?" And a friend of mine said, "God has a plan for you." I said, "What? What plan?" I only got my friends. I got a guy come that says hello to me once a month. I look forward for them visits.
Right.
Well, I go up there, and the chaplain. I go see the chaplain, James Stogner. His name is. Never forget it. Nice looking kid, young kid. And I walked into the chapel, and I says, "Mr. Stogner, my name is Mike Lee. I used to do plays." I said, "I only got a year and a half left." I says, "I was wondering, maybe I can continue, to help some of these guys." No, he says, "We don't do that up here." And anyway, 2 months goes by, knock on the cell door. It was James Stogner. And he says to me, he says, "I got the approval from the warden. You like to do a play?" "Yeah." I said, "Great. I got a whole, I'd love to." Well, I wound up doing 7 plays. Now, this kid was a good guitar player and singer.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the object of the play is that I would do a 15, 20-minute play, and then the chaplain, like you, would come on behind the play and talk about whatever play I did, the Prodigal Son, Shadrach and Meshach, the Sodom and Gomorrah.
Bring the message.
They would bring the message. That's how it was designed. Play and then message. And then anybody who wants to be saved, which many guys got up, So I says to him, I said, "Jimmy, you're pretty good. How come you didn't pursue your career?" And he looked at me, and then what I'm about to tell you is all true. He said, "Mike, I was a womanizer. I was a drinker." He said, "But my choice was to keep my feet under my kitchen table." And when he said that, the tears came in my eyes. He said, "I got to tell you something. Before you came here," he said, "I just pushed the pen." He said, "I didn't do no preaching." He said, when somebody died, I called him in my office. When a guy's wife gave a Dear John letter because she felt somebody else, I had him in my office. He says, but you were the one that brought me back to the Lord.
Wow.
You were. And when he said that to me, I said, I can't take credit for that. And then I realized that God needed me once again.
He needed you up there.
To go back there. And I wound up doing 7 more plays. And his name is Chaplain James Stogner. I never forgot this guy. Because he would do, I said, Chap, you need to get behind the podium. You know, after the play, you need to get up and do a tune and talk to the people. He says, and you brought me back. I said, no, I didn't bring you back. God just used me. And then I realized why God, because I said, what am I leaving? Why am I going up here? What do I, I only got a year and a half to go. I didn't want to leave. I was complacent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he used me in a very powerful way. Again, you know. And I was blessed. And that's why this story here is so off the wall, but it'll show the viewer the power of God and how God could use a man that was a sinner and with the most horrendous crime to be accused of, that you are smashed or stabbed the minute you hit a yard, or you're in solitary confinement for the duration. There's guys that do, it's called PC, protective custody. You ain't walking any yard. You know what I mean? And to use me to grab these lions and say, wait a minute, I got a part for you. You'll be great at it. Taking these men out of their comfort zone. Now open up a Bible on a yard. These guys are running 100 miles an hour. Don't you open that Bible up to me, because it showed that you were weak.
Right.
But yet to do that in the play and instill the Word of God, because the dialogue was from the Bible. It wasn't my dialogue. It was from the Bible. And I would read it. You say this, you say that, you bring that in. Like the prodigal son. You know, that's one of my favorite plays. And then Joseph, which is a great play. That was a 30-minute play. It was 18 guys. And how God used me. And I would say, okay, you stage left, stage right, you come, you do this, you do that, this is what I want you to do. No, come on, guys, you got to do it right now. Oh, come on, Mike. No, you ain't, listen, come on, you're not doing it right. Have I let you down? And that was my big, have I ever let you down? Don't let these guys clown you now. You know, this is God's word now. You know what we need to do. A lot of guys were believers and some guys weren't.
We're with Michael Leonetti. We're going to come back and do another segment and talk about food.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited now.
Yeah, there we go. We'll be back with Chef Michael Leonetti right after these messages.
Now we're talking. You get your chicken, as you can see, and this is a beautiful chicken. It's deveined. It's really nice, and it's not that really thick. And what you do is you just turn it in your flour, as you can see, and then very so gently, you come over this side, and as you can see, the butter and the garlic was sauteing. And then you add your chicken right here, as you can see. All right? Now, what I do is I get my mushrooms. I come over here, grab a little bit of mushroom here, put the mushrooms on that. We got some parsley that I use. We got some salt. Be careful with the salt. Don't be careful, very careful with that. And a little bit of pepper, as you can see. All right, we're going to raise the flame right about here. All right, and we're cooking that Marsala, as you can see. It's got the garlic, it's got the butter. Now, I cooked it in butter because what the butter does, it makes the chicken real soft and moist. Now, be careful that you don't overcook it, because if you do, it gets a dry taste. The one thing about Jerry's, the way he does his is phenomenal. And what you see is you got your mushrooms and everything is cooking. Now what I do is I get my lid, okay? And I pour this over just like this, because what I want to do is I want to get it to steam to cook. Now you'll see something fantastic. Come back to the next segment, you'll see the second half.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. We are here with Michael Leonetti, Chef Michael Leonetti. We're going to talk about his cooking prowess, which is considerable. I've eaten your food, my friend, and it is good.
Yes, it is.
And you cooked right here in our studio the other day and did a wonderful job, and just the place smelled wonderful. It really did. How did you get started?
My
cooking?
grandmother.
Is that right?
My grandmother.
Yeah.
I idolized her. I loved that old lady. At the age of 7, 8 years old, some kids were playing baseball and handball outside. I would watch that old lady cook in the kitchen, and I watched every move that she made. And she was from Italy, and she would say, "Miguel, andiamo," she'd say to me, "Come here. Let me show you make the pupetta in Italian means meatballs. That's how you say meatballs in Italian is pupetta."
Okay.
And she would make the meatball, and I would watch her. And I all my aunts and my uncles. And in fact, the show that Sandy and I did for Smith's, when I was 18 years old, they called me into the living room, and I thought somebody passed away. And my grandmother,
They were very somber.
I could still see my grandmother's face. That old lady had the dish rag. We called it a mopine. She had it in her hand, and she always had an apron on. Don't ask me why. She always had an apron. She was ready to cook.
Time of day, doesn't matter.
Didn't make any difference. She had an apron. She was ready to cook. And she handed me the spoon. And my aunts and my uncles were there, and I looked. And for me, that means she turned over the kitchen to me. So at the age of 18, Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, Easter Sunday, I was the one that did the cooking.
And that was a considerable honor.
Of course. And she said something to me I'll never forget. She says, Michael, you're better than Grandma. No, Graham, nobody's better than you, I said. She says, you're better than Grandma. Because the old lady, I had a certain touch with my cooking, the way I made it. You know what I mean? It ain't 2 ounces of this. It's from here when I cooked. You
I've
know?
seen you do it. You just
I just knew what needs to be done. And all my life, as a child, and as in my adult life, went into the kitchens, and that was my trade. As a, people use that word chef very loosely, but I specialize in one style of cooking, and that's Italian cuisine. Because the way I cooked, my great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, father, aunts, uncles, I watched. Because I'm from Naples. Now the Neapolitans, the Calabrese, the Bruzzese, everybody cooks differently. Their styles are different. There's a Sicilian sauce, and then there's a Napolitan sauce. Like last time we had a dinner at the house, I made homemade raviolis, I made the braciole, I made the meatballs. And naturally, Dr. Perry, they're the executive producers of our show. Diana said, Mike, this sauce, we call it gravy. Gravy back east is gravy. The west is brown gravy.
Yeah,
We're not talking
it's
brown.
Different, yeah.
It's different. It's red.
Yeah.
And it took me 7 hours to make it. But the sauce over the pasta, forget about it. It was delicious,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Michael. It's really been fascinating. We'll be back with Michael Leonetti on Las Vegas Tonight right after this.
Now what I do is I add some capers, okay? Now remember, that's optional. That's just something that I personally like to do, is add the capers. Because I really, really enjoy the capers for me. And then what I'll do, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I'll get this chicken and I'll split it down the middle. Come on in here, cameraman. I'm going to show you something. You see this? The chicken's not done. The outside's done, and I turn it. Then I turn it again, and I turn this little baby one. Look how pretty that is. Is that gorgeous? Okay, now I get my morcella, all right? And I add a little bit of this. You ready for this? Watch out for that flame. Here we go. Oh, is that beautiful? Look at that. That's fantastic. And I let it cook for just a little hair bit, and then again, I add my little piece over here of stock.
Is that chicken stock?
That's the chicken stock. Now you can use chicken or beef, either one. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. I said it so many times, and like this. Now, as you can see, this is done, but I do my rule a little bit different. You can go to Smith's on aisle 2, and I use Wondra. And this is so fantastic, because watch what happens. Come a little closer, and what you gotta do is shut your flame off. Okay? Now come a little closer and take a look at this. And what you do, ladies and gentlemen, you just sprinkle that just a hair, as you can see. All right? And then you turn it, and then you turn it, and then you turn it. Okay, Jerry, can I have a plate, please? Yeah. Now, if you notice, Jerry used lemon. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. You can use it, but me, in place of the lemon, I choose to use the capers. And then what you do here, okay, you take out your chicken ever so gently. Look how beautiful this is, right? And then with your sauce.
Now comes the best part. We get to eat it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, delicious.
And we're back with Michael Leonetti right here on Las Vegas Tonight. You mentioned discernment earlier.
Yes.
That's a difficult thing for all Christians. I have problems discerning God's will myself. Tell me, do you have a secret? Is there a way that you're able to determine what the Lord wants you to set out to do? Do you set out like a ship on a river or a boat on a river and then let Him correct your course? How do you go about it?
I ask Him every day for His guidance, for His understanding. You know, we have a lot of Sadducees and Pharisees that are out there.
Boy, yeah, don't
You know that.
Yeah.
You know, I got a lot of people that we know that are Christians. And boy, I tell you something, I don't know what book they're reading. But there's a lot of unforgiveness in a lot of these people. That's why I go back to telling you, if your heart's not right, you can't receive anything.
Right.
You know, and just because you go to church on Sunday and you throw that envelope in the box, church is in your heart. It's not in some building. And it's what you do for other people. That's the most important thing, is what you do for others. For me, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I just follow his lead. What do you want me to do? What direction, you know? I'd love to do the plays again. I would love to bring his word, but look what he did with Jonah. Go to Nineveh. He said, which way is it? He said, it's that way. He went the other way. You never heard from him. I mean, did Jonah do anything else but Nineveh? I mean, you know, for those that are watching today.
Yeah.
So there was one story about Jonah, but I'm sure that he did much more than just that. All the people in the Bible that God used, he used them in a very powerful way. But a lot of people went through suffering just like me. So I realize it now why I had to lose everything that I had, because I could have never wrote and directed those plays and touched the hearts of of lions. I was dealing with tigers and bears. These guys were no joke. They had nothing to look forward to. Their life was through. Their families were against them. They were in an institution that they're never getting out, or they were facing another 20 years. And then I'm asking you to get on stage to bless somebody? So they were cold-hearted. But how God's word changed the hearts of these men. And they remembered the dialogue of what was shown to them. And God used me out of all people. Now, if I was in for murder, I was a hero. Bank robbery, they'd have built a monument of me. But accused of any sexual assault charge, and then using me to teach these guys that were murderers and bears that they frowned on something like that? See, there's the difference. And there's the power of God. And don't let nobody tell you different. God was in the midst of what I've done and used me. And it was, so if you ask me what's the greatest thing I've ever done, cooking, performing at the Smith Center, Carnegie Hall, absolutely not. The greatest thing I've ever done in my life at the age of 63 was producing and directing those plays. And to watch an audience that was the most difficult, hardest crowd you could ever have. And having guys walk out and say, oh man, touched my heart, Mike. Man, that play really moved me. Man, and I would sit back like this. And I look up and say, thank you, Father. Thank you for using me. And I was a broken, hurt man. You know what I mean? Never thinking I would ever get out of hell, because that was hell where I was at.
Well, Michael Leonetti, you're going to have a long line when you get to heaven, standing waiting for you. I think there's plenty of men, women, children, people that you've touched since you've been out and when you were in prison. And I think they're all going to say thanks. Thanks for helping me get here to reside with my Father.
That's what it's about, because we're just passing through. And Dale, thank you for being kind enough to allow me to share my story with the viewers out in TV land. And for those that doubt the Lord, take a second look. Because when you feel depressed and you're down, just look above a cloud. He's listening to you. Trust me. Take it from me.
Michael Leonetti, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Please stick around. There's plenty more on this Christian television station. We'll be back at this time next week. God bless you, and please walk with Him.
A potential audience of more than 50 million people is reached every week by Las Vegas Tonight. To keep the important message of Christ's love on the air, we need your prayers and financial blessings. Please send your tax-deductible gift to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. For a donation of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Dale Davidson's new book, Las Vegas Tonight.
I want a heart that forgives, a heart full of love, one with compassion just like yours above, one that overcomes evil with goodness and love, like it never happened, never holding a grudge. Want a heart that forgives, that lives and lets live, one that keeps loving over and over again, one that men can offend because your word is within, one that loves without price like you, Lord Jesus Christ. Want a heart that loves everybody, even my enemies. Want to love like you, be like you, just like you did. Want a heart that forgives. Want a heart that forgives when the ones that are closest, that I've known the longest, hurt me the most. I still wanna love them just like you love me, even though I'm hurting. I want a heart that forgives when the pain is so deep, it's so hard to speak about it to anyone, just like your son. I give up my right to hold it against them with hatred inside. I want a heart that loves everybody, even my enemies. I want to love like and be like and just like you did. I want to walk like you, talk like, just like you did. Want to be like you, live like you, just like you did. 'Cause a heart that forgives is the heart that will live, totally free from the pain of the past. And the heart that lets go is the heart that will know so much freedom. Lord, I want to let it go. Hey, hallelujah. God, I need to let it go. Lord, it's been holding me back, and I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it no more. I don't know exactly what to do to get rid of it, but here I am, Lord Jesus. Here I am, oh, here I am, Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord, I need you, I need you. I know this is me that you're talking to. This is me, this is me, this is me, Lord, this is me. Lord, I let it go. Every person that's ever hurt me, gotta let it go. Every single heart, gotta let it go. Every single pain, gotta let it go. I let it go. I let it go. Lord, you can have. Lord, you can have. Lord, you can have it. Lord, you can have it. You can have it now. You can have it now. 'Cause I don't want it no more.
You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with Dale Davidson. Send your tax-deductible gifts to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. Or call 702-480-3989. Thanks for watching.